Are we there?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program Discourse. The growing tension between the United States and Iran have once again placed the Middle East at the center of global geopolitical economic uncertainty. Beyond the battlefield, the conflict is sending shockwaves through global economy, affecting oil price, trade routes, financial markets, and cost of living across the continent. The Middle East remains one of the most critical energy hubs in the world. Nearly 20% of the global oil supply passes through the Strait of Hormuz, a strategic shipping route that has become increasingly vulnerable aimed at the conflict. As tension escalates, global oil price surged closely to $120 per barrel, triggering fears of inflation and economic slowdown across both developed and developing economies. Economic analysts estimate that the United States alone could face up to $210 billion in total economic cost if the conflict continues, including military spending and economic distribution. Across the region, the impact is also severe as Israel reportedly suffered about $6 billion in economic losses during the early phases of the conflict, with infrastructure damage and disruptions to manufacturing, agriculture, and tourism. The global consequences extend far beyond the Middle East, disruptions to energy supply, rising shipping insurance costs, and declined tourism could cost the global economy between $30 and $56 billion, while potential reducing the international travel by as much as 20%. An analyst warned that prolonged disruption to oil and diesel supply could trigger global inflation, supply chain disruption, and slower economic growth worldwide. On today's edition of Discourse, we'll be examining how US and Iran conflict is shaping the global economy, the region and sectors suffering the greatest economic losses, the implications for developing economies like Nigeria, and whether diplomacy can avert a deeper global economic crisis. We will be finding that out today. My name is Samuel Odi, and I have a guest in the studio who will be joining us to have a conversation around the US-Iran war and how it's impacting the global economy. Well, looking at our 2026 budget here in Nigeria, we saw that a price for a barrel of oil was situated at $64 to a barrel. Now, over the weekend, we saw almost 100% increment. That is, we saw increase. We saw a bullish trend in the oil sector, where oil was sold at $120 per barrel. That, on lighter notes, adds money to the pocket of Nigeria based on what we have in terms of our 2026 budget cap for oil, the crude oil per barrel. So on that note, it's exciting. The government is happy that yes, we are going to make money, but how much of this are we refining in a day? Do we have enough to export? And again, how is in fact affecting people? This is just, let's say, less than 3 weeks into the crisis. People, Nigerians, are feeling the brunt already. Petrol is being sold at 1,400, some 1,350, some 1,390 naira, some 1,395 naira. And also, we're seeing diesel being sold at up to 1,750 naira. And petroleum transporters have come out to say that there's a high chance that the PMS price would be hitting up to 2,000 naira if this conflict persists. So looking at the global economic impact now, the global economic implication of US-Iran conflict can be seen across 5 major sectors of the global economy, which is one. Particularly, I mentioned earlier the energy market, where oil prices are the most immediate casualty of this conflict. Disruptions in the Persian Gulf threatens up to 20% of global oil shipments, pushing energy price higher and increasing transportation and production costs worldwide. Trade Global trade and shipping maritime insurance premium have risen significantly due to risks of attacks on vessels, increasing the cost of international trade. Major shipping lanes through the Red Sea and Persian Gulf has been volatile. Inflation and cost of living, higher energy price translate directly into higher food and transportation costs across the world. Countries already struggling with inflation face even greater economic pressure. Now the financial market is not left out. Gold as well is also not left out. The global market reacts sharply to geopolitical tensions. Stock markets have experienced volatile while investors move funds towards safer assets like gold and government bonds. Tourism and investment also would suffer a backlash because people would obviously not want to travel based on the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty of attacks happening. The conflict threatens more one of the Middle East's fastest growing sector, which is tourism. A decline of 23 to 38 million tourists globally could cost the global economy up to $56 billion in tourism revenue. So the trajectory continues like that. We also saw regionally, there are regional losses. Middle East. The Middle East bears the most direct economic damage, where oil infrastructure threatens reduced investment, decline in tourism, disrupt trade. Iran's economy could face a GDP constriction exceeding 10% if the conflict escalates more than this. Gotham House, United States. The United States faces significant financial burdens as well from military operations and economic disruptions. Earlier estimates suggest the war could cost between $65 billion and $210 billion, depending on the duration of the crisis. In Europe, Europe faces energy supply risks due to its reliance on oil, imported oil and diesel from the Middle East. Raising fuel costs could slow economic growth. Asia, countries like India, Japan, and China are heavily dependent on the Middle East oil. Any disruption to supply could increase their import bills and inflation on Africa. African economies are particularly vulnerable. Higher than fuel price affects transportation, electricity generation, and food production, leading to inflation and economic hardship. There are now implications on Nigeria. For Nigeria, the conflict presents both risks and opportunity. Like I mentioned earlier, looking at our 2026 budget, the cap that was placed for crude per barrel was $64 to a barrel. Now, like I mentioned earlier, that is being traded at $120 to a barrel. So we almost have a 100% increase. If we do the math, that's around 85% increase on what was already budgeted by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. Higher global oil price could increase Nigeria's oil revenue, which the former administration, still under APC, did not get. Rising fuel price could worsen inflation, increase shipping costs, and may affect imports. Global economic slowdown could reduce foreign investment. In essence, while oil exporters may gain revenue in short term, the overall global economic instability could offset gains. And then we'll be having this conversation to help us understand this broad implication of this conflict on the global economy. Joining me live in the studios is Emmanuel Ozoemena, a policy consultant. Thank you for joining us on Discourse today.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you, viewers.
Okay, let's start. You understand the system, you understand the subject matter more. You have been someone who has followed Donald Trump all through to him getting emerging president, and we had conversations during the campaigning era where he had to face off Kamala Harris, and you said in your words that Kamala Harris cannot stand Donald Trump. Now, looking at the war between US and Iran, how significant is the conflict in shaping the current global economy outlook?
I think to begin with, it's important to also look at the context of the war.
Okay.
Because most often people talk about this current US-Israel campaign in the Middle East,
yes,
or in Iran as something that suddenly happened.
Yes.
Yeah, it's for anybody who had been watching global politics,
yes,
we knew it was going to happen,
yes,
at a point, but the only thing that we may not have been sure of was when it was going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, because just cast your mind back to July 2015.
Yes.
For quite a long time, the former US president was going to exist, Barack Obama, and he finally got what he called the Iranian deal,
yes,
around the nuclear proliferation
yes,
and all that.
Yes.
So signed it, and then curiously,
yes,
the implementation or takeoff time was going to be on the 16th of January 2016.
Yes.
So in 4 days, Obama is out of power. So he was now handing over crisis to the incoming administration.
Yes.
Perhaps he had thought former Secretary Hillary Clinton was going to, be Madam President, but suddenly, against all bookmakers' prediction, Donald Trump emerged. So it meant a brand new policy. Even though in 2028, when Hillary Clinton was running, she said, look, Iran is a threat. Iran's nuclear ambition is a threat
to the United States.
Yeah, and she was going to take action. So every US president had said, look, we won't allow Iran to acquire, to proceed with their nuclear ambition.
Yes.
So what happened? Trump came in, reviewed the Iranian deal,
yes,
and felt, look, this is not in the interest of United States. By 2018, he suspended it.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Obama had paid some money, had lifted some part of sanctions. So Iran had access to money.
Yes.
And what did they do with that money? US and Israel believes that they went back to reinvest it in their nuclear ambitions. So, and that was what, if you look back, just less than a year ago, about 8 months ago,
yes,
in June last year,
yes,
Israel decided to bomb Iran,
yes,
their nuclear sites, and as that was going on, US came in.
Yes.
It was a 12-day war.
Yes.
Incidentally, today is 12th day this war, this new campaign started.
Okay.
So what has happened? Ahead of time, I remember, I think on the 1st of March,
yes,
Donald Trump, in one of his media
charts,
press, in his pressers,
yes,
yeah, he clearly said, look, oil price predictably will go up. It could go as high as anything, but it will stabilize after some time. And Trump also had given a timeline.
Yes.
If you follow the US military experts,
yes,
Pentagon experts, and Pentagon insiders, they are saying, look, the first phase, they are talking about the first phase of the war.
Yes.
So the first phase would last between 4 to 5 weeks.
Yes.
So what we have just done, we've done less than 2 weeks.
Yes.
And the impact, and everybody is shouting.
Yes.
So what to do, like Trump said, focus your mind on the goal. The goal is to ensure the end of the regime. That's what he said.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just repeating what Donald Trump has said. Yes. So anybody who is going to do an analysis should look at what is the position of the United States.
Yes.
And Iran on their part are also not lying low. They're also retaliating.
Yes.
Because if you look at they've identified the Gulf states,
yes,
who are allies of America, as targets.
Yes, yesterday we saw a report from the American embassy saying some outlets here that belongs to Americans should be careful because there's a threat coming. And it also says, we also saw reports that says that Iran wasn't going to be ready with their nuclear weapon till the next 9 to 10 years. Do you think this move to start this war,
I think for if you've listened, because I have taken time to follow Pentagon insiders.
Okay.
Yeah, if you follow them,
yes,
I mean, they are clearly stating their ambition. This is a deterrent move.
Okay.
Yeah, deterrent move, because they believe somehow that after June 2025, bombing of the 2 known or major nuclear sites,
yes,
that they went back and continued.
Okay.
But again, we may not blame Iran per se,
okay,
because the deal has been has been broken.
Yeah.
I mean, the deal of 2015 is no longer holding.
Yes.
Yeah, so whatever, even the negotiation that Wiskov and his colleagues were engaging with the Iranian team there in Switzerland, in Geneva, that was being mediated by Oman, is actually a fresh negotiation.
Okay.
It was a fresh talk. So, but at the moment, I'm sure, like Trump keeps saying, that we've gone beyond deal.
Yes.
So what he wants to do, he's clear on his ambition.
Yes.
First, stop Iran from further developing whatever it is that they intend to, the ambition.
Sure.
Then secondly, he's also looking at regime change. Remember, at the beginning of the year, in fact, between December and January, there were internal crises. Activists were on the street in Iran, in Tehran, and a couple of other locations across the country asking for freedom.
True.
So, and that has sort of created what you could call condition precedents.
Yes.
Condition precedents for possible regime change. So perhaps Israel and America would have sat back and said, look, condition looks ripe for us to step in now. And it's a question of doing your SWOT analysis in international diplomacy. You do your SWOT analysis and say, when is my enemy, when is he at his weakest point? That's when you strike. Perhaps that's what has happened. Okay.
Well, looking at it now, looking at the strategy now and the region, Middle East, how everything is panning, do you think this is also, we have, like I mentioned earlier, we have China and some Asian countries who are dependently so much on oil. How do you think this can affect businesses in those regions before we trickle it down to Nigeria?
No, invariably. Take for instance, when Russia invaded Ukraine and a war started, Russia-Ukraine war. We are in the fourth year. This is the fourth year. I mean, on the 25th of February was the 4th year anniversary. The first thing that happened was there was a shock across the world, especially around produce. Agricultural produce were affected. Energy was also affected. But Russia, incidentally, is the biggest supplier of energy to Europe and a couple of other countries. They've got quite a lot of. They play a lot of big role within the energy market. So what happened? But with time, I mean, this is the 4th year. Nobody remembers those initial disruption in the market. So perhaps that's what Trump would have been looking at when he talked about the market will take care of itself. It's a question of time. But I think at the moment, this is an initial market reaction, initial pains, and I'm sure the planners of the war at whichever end, both Iran, Israel, and the United States would have also done those analyses and laid out the trajectory of how it will play. But again, it's affecting the global oil market. Again, you have about 13 million barrels per day. That's about 20% of the global oil supply coming from the Middle East, and using that Strait of Hormuz, which is strategically lies within the territory of Iran. So Iran is now using it as a lien. Lien is a legal term when somebody's you can hold his car, hold his house, hold his land. So they are holding it as a lien for negotiation. But incidentally, US is saying no, you can't be there. You can't. I think yesterday Donald Trump was talking about they should go and remove the landmines that they have laid around that area. Because what Donald Trump had initially said, look, we're going to get our navy to escort the ships. But again, incidentally, maybe they now realize that Iran may have laid mines around there. So it means any ship that comes there gets blown up. So what they are doing now, they may buy some time and demining. They could get a demining process. I'm sure there are submarines that will get in there and demine it, and then now hold. They have strong air power. Then use the air power and hold that place strategically safe. So maybe that could be their intention. Because in war, you just keep developing your strategy,
new
responses to emerging issues and all that. But I think, if you ask me, is the crisis, is the campaign, is the war likely going to be de-escalate now? I don't think it will happen, because Iran is standing on their position, even though they've lost the supreme leader on the first day of the attack. But there seems to the remnant, what I call remnant of the Iranian regime, would have gone back and regroup. And if you notice now, they are a bit strategic even in naming their leaders. They have not named anybody as their leader. So what you have is perhaps whispering campaign.
Well, do you think that the United States will have an influence on who would be the next supreme leader?
United States, if you ask me, would hold the crisis for longer time. So if you hold it for longer time, you can weary the other, get weary the other party, and it gets tired. And you know, it's the civilian populace in Iran would also be thinking, what do we need to lose? What dog do we have in this battle? So they will also be doing their own analysis. And mind you, Iran is not a monolithic country. It's not a monolithic nation. You've got cults, you've got all kinds of groups that make up the country. So it's a question of each of those groups taking on an idea and say, look, who do we align with? How do we move? If you watch countries' crisis, an example is just Libya. Libya at the moment have 3 different power points. Libya was held together for a long time by Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. But the post-Gaddafi Libya have seen a country that is fractionalized till date. Gaddafi died a few years ago, about a decade ago or thereabout. But the crisis is not solved. So if Iran gets into that, so you can imagine what will be the outcome. But again, it's too early at this moment to really speculate. But the point is that the prices will go off, inflation's markets will react.
We've seen in Pakistan, yesterday they decided to start classes online to just regulate the usage of fuel based on the fact that this incident is looking to, escalate more than what it's looking like. But do you think there are other allies of Iran that might want to join in this fight?
Iran has got 2 major allies, China and Russia. But Russia is battle weary.
Because
they've been in Ukraine for 4 years. And in the war in Ukraine is actually not against Ukraine. They are fighting. They have America as an ally of Ukraine. They also have the EU. So it's a huge distraction. So this war, I don't think military strategies within the Russian system will ask them to go in. They might stay back and try to play the role of a mediator. But would a Donald Trump listen to his colleague in Moscow, Putin? Even though a few days ago he said they had a conversation. But would Putin be able to speak to the actors within the Iranian regime? Would they listen? Because this is about ego, this is about pride. So at this point in time, if you ask me, they've reached a point of no return. So it's either you prosecute it to the end, take victory or take defeat. Because that's what happens in war, and part of the strategy, either you win or you lose. But do you think or you do it gallantly?
But do you think there can be any form of diplomatic approach to solving this incident going on between US, Israel, and Iran?
The only, you could say, arbiter that would have stepped in is the United Nations. But United Nations seems to have evaporated. Sorry to say that.
They even had to close down their Dubai outlets.
No. Evaporated in the sense that the Secretary General hasn't really come out. In fact, the only intervening or convening power you could have now is the Poplio, the Catholic Pontiff, who seems to, he's an American. So he could step in and say, Trump, look, can we talk? And his influence will be very, very, remarkable.
Yeah.
But again, on the part of Israel, who are at the thick of the war, if you follow there was a recent interview by the Israeli ambassador to Nigeria, and there was a right of response from the Iranian ambassador. So if you follow that debate, so that shows you these two countries have made up their mind, because they are actually the main actors in this current conflict. America is located several kilometers away, but Israel is the next door. So, and then Israel has their border with Lebanon and border with the Palestinian territory. So what happens? You have Hezbollah, you have Hamas, who they see as proxies. Now, on the other part, you saw Iran made a strategic error, strategic mistake. I don't know who was advising them to have begun to attack their neighbors in the Gulf. Saudi Arabia, Oman, Kuwait, Qatar, and all that. But what they have done now, so you now have, they are like isolated from within the region. So Iran looks like an isolated baby.
Now against Iran.
So they're on their own. I don't see China getting involved. China will be a bit worried about, can we get alternative energy? Oh, they've closed Venezuela because they've cut off Venezuela from us. They've not cut off our supply from Iran. Okay, why don't we get to Nigeria? Why don't we get down to Equatorial Guinea? There are quite other places. Because now if you close the Strait of Hormuz, the Equatorial Guinea, Gulf of Guinea is open. So you could still do business. So and that's why for Nigeria, what we need to do now is, like you said in your intro, SWOT analysis. Strength, our strengths, our weaknesses, the opportunities and threats in this conflict. Because for us, in what we call oil boom in the economic history of Nigeria, was actually the Yom Kippur War of 1973. OPEC decided to, cut off energy supply to the West. And Nigeria became, and a couple of other countries who are non-Arab countries, became the beautiful bride. And that's where Nigeria, for the first time, made huge gains in oil sales. That's the origin of the oil boom. There was an energy crisis, and then for Nigeria, it became a boom. Incidentally, we didn't manage it very well, because the leaders then, either they were not exposed or they didn't have the required education to manage that boom
at the time,
and it became a disaster. Even though in 1970-71 they had developed the second National Development Plan. It was a 10-year plan. So Gowon, who was incidentally a young head of state, now was interested in turning Nigeria to a charity nation, looking at other countries, what to give them. When we have not industrialized, when we have not put infrastructure in place. We had another opportunity during the Gulf War, 1990 to 1991. The military administration then, General Ibrahim, also blew that opportunity. The point is that what the current administration needs to do is to step back and say, look, we have a benchmark of our budget at $64.85 per barrel. And our allocation, I think, is about 1.2 million barrels per day. Now it has doubled. In 1973, it quadrupled. It was 3 times the price. I think about $30. So now it's set twice that price. So what do we do? How do we manage that gains? Or windfall, if you may, because this is unexpected. So what it means is that they need to put on their thinking cap.
Yes.
But again, you also need to look at internal policy. I mean, the prices of cooking gas, of petrol,
diesel,
of gas everywhere is up.
Yes.
So how do you get into, because if you allow Nigeria descend into another inflection, it's going to be hard. And this is an election year.
Yes.
So that means at that, by this time next year, people would have voted.
Yes.
So what will you be telling Nigerians? Because assuming this lingers for another 6 months.
Yes.
For me, my prediction, my initial prognosis is, look, this might linger, the first phase could be there for another 3 months, 90 days.
Yes.
Then after that,
because the first projection says 5 weeks, so there's a high chance that
give it 3 months, 90 days.
Yes.
And then what if none of the parties agrees to lay down their arms? Trump is insisting you must lay down your arms. He's already speaking to, I think, the Iranian diplomats across the world. Say, take an asylum wherever you are.
Yes.
I mean, these are what he has said in his presence.
Yes.
He said, take an asylum wherever you are. So what if he lingers? What happens if he lingers? So Nigeria must, the managers of the Nigerian economy need to sit back and do futuristic analysis and say, how do we navigate this process?
Yes.
And ensure that the impact on the Nigerian people who are already going through economic challenges
already
is not escalated, but rather, managed in such a sustainable way.
Okay, talking about managing that now, do you think the introduction of fuel subsidy, do you think fuel subsidy should come back given the price that we are buying, that petrol is being sold now in the petrol station? Some are selling for 1,400, some 1,350, some 870 and 1,890 naira, just respectively, depending on where individuals are buying. First time President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was just assuming office, he said fuel subsidy is removed. Now, the gains, money that has been saved up from fuel subsidy, Nigerians are still asking questions, what have those monies been used for? Where is infrastructure development that you would say, yes, we are tying this development from the seedings we got, from the monies we saved from fuel subsidy. And then now, we're seeing a significant, remarkable profit being made from the oil sector. How can that now trickle down to the common man? And do you think Nigeria can do more? Instead of producing 1.2 barrels per day, do you think it can be increased to a higher percentage?
Well, I don't have the details about our capacity, in terms of production capacity, but I think this is an opportunity.
Okay.
How do we leverage it? Do we have the technical know-how, whatever it takes to leverage it?
Yes.
If you ask me, I may not have the answer.
Yes.
Perhaps you need to bring in the energy advisor, the president, to give us the data and details.
Yes.
Yeah. But what I think, in terms of policy processes, is to sit back, do a SWOT analysis.
Okay.
I expect that to happen.
Yes.
And that SWOT analysis should be looking at this gain, how much of time, what is the timeline we think this can last?
Yes.
What projections are we making over the next, this is the first quarter. The first quarter will end at the end of this month.
Yes.
So first quarter, what if it gets into the second quarter, third quarter? Now, the pricing of oil internally, how do we manage it?
Yeah.
Because when Ukraine war started in the UK, people were getting energy subsidy or tickets from the government. They were getting payment for energy because prices of energy went up, and people needed to heat their houses because everything is basically gas driven. So the government had to step in. So what the government need to do? I saw, I think, a story about the president or the administration talking about increasing access to CNG. For me, if you ask me, CNG is not the answer.
Okay.
I still think it's not a technology that is not sustainable.
Okay, why do you think so?
Because it's not sustainable. What we might need to do now is to get back. And because how many vehicles in my village has CNG? Has converted to CNG? That's the first question. When you travel to villages, ask the transporters how many of them uses CNG, and how many CNG gas stations do you have outside Abuja
Yeah.
and Lagos and a couple of, when you travel on the road, take a trip from here to Kano and check how many CNG, whatever you're able to find on the road stations.
Yeah.
So if you have not deepened the CNG, then it cannot be an intervention at the moment towards managing navigating the energy spike in energy prices.
Yes.
It shouldn't be. But what I think they should do, it go beyond the people you have appointed. There are experts everywhere who can help you navigate, design sustainable policies that would be able to help Nigeria navigate this process. Because if we miss it, we're going to get into deep recession that is only God that will know when we're able to pull out.
Okay. Well, this is something very concerning because it's trickling down on the cost of food items, transportation already on every common Nigerian. But looking at it regionally now, estimates suggest that the conflict could cost up to $210 billion to the United States, and then we saw in the first few days of the attack already, it cost Israel $6 billion. Now, Nigeria, well, we've not gotten the statistics of what is costing.
I hope somebody's collecting the data.
Collecting the data.
Yeah, I hope we are collecting the data
because it's obviously affecting the Nigeria as a country and also an African region. So how can Africans now be able to protect ourselves from incidents like this? Because this came out of the blue. Nobody foresaw this. We just saw all over the news media that this incident is going on between Iran and the US. So how can Africa now position herself as a hub, so as if these international communities are having conflicts like this, things within this region wouldn't be so affected as we've seen it be affecting the US and Israel?
The first challenge we have, let's look at the energy sector.
Yes.
How many countries in Africa are members of OPEC?
OPEC, okay.
Yeah. Have you heard the African Union come up, convene a summit on how to design resilience policies or response to this conflict? The only thing I've heard the chairman of African Union Commission say was he was calling for de-escalation of the conflict. So beyond calling for de-escalation, which is good, intervening, trying to call for peace, they have not. I expected a summit to have been convened at the moment. Say, look, how are we as Africans going to respond to this? There seems to be no cohesive response at the moment to this amongst Africa. Because the challenge is that, incidentally, the intra-African trade is very low. Even the African energy producers who prefer to sell to the countries in the West Asia and the Americas and Europe than selling to the African countries. But within Africa, the trade, intra-African trade, is about less than 16%.
Okay.
It's less than 16%.
Okay.
So if it's less than 16% and is the lowest amongst all the regions, Africa has 1.5 billion people. That's a huge market. And they have the highest number of young people. So the productive sector is very high. But how much of production happens in Africa? Apart from South Africa, that is, you could say is industrialized, perhaps Egypt, Morocco, which other country in Africa? So Africa may end up going deeper into recession. Partly because, first, low intra-African trade. Secondly, dependent on imported on imports, an import-dependent economy. Because what China would do now is that their production is going to shoot up. So if you get this pen from China, because there's a higher cost of energy, the price is going to go up. So an Africa being an import-dependent economy is likely going to be at the receiving end. So I have not seen that proactive action by African leaders to say, look, what are we going to do? Perhaps they are hoping, fasting and praying that the thing will end by next week. But if you understand conflict, if you understand emergencies, what I expect them to do is put on their thinking cap, get together, even if it's a Zoom meeting, and take a decision and say, this is our position, this is how we intend to support each other, this is how we intend to ensure that there's energy supply and assets across within the region. An example is during COVID. You saw Africa was isolated.
Yes, true.
And we're just moping, waiting for the rest of the region to take the lead, to tell us what to do. Most countries in Africa didn't even have, Center for Disease Control. Even those that had, including Nigeria, it was the United States that had set it up years before. So that shows you how ready, the readiness of Africa. So, but I have not seen this proactive action happen since this conflict started. But I just hope they will move quickly.
Well, we actually hope they get to move very quickly and get us, quick response to what the situation on the ground is and how Africa will be able to benefit properly from this. If Africa will benefit, they should get into actions so as the whole incident won't hamper, and then Africa will play more of the brunt of the incident going on in the Western world. Let's go on a very quick break, and then when we return back, Discourse continues. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining, this is Discuss, and the conversation is about to expand into a different category where my second guest just walked into the studio in the person of Chukwu Joshua, who is a public affairs analyst. Joshua, thank you so much for joining us on Discuss.
Thank you very much.
All right, getting and continuing this conversation that we already started. Now, let's get it from your own concept, Joshua, on how this government has, impacted the people's life. In 2023, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came into power and said his first subsidy gone. And now the incident happening in US and Iran is affecting Nigeria does not have a business with the war, but the people of Nigeria are suffering. How would you say that the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has hampered the way of living and the cost of living for Nigerians?
Okay, firstly, thank you for having me. It's really been a very long while. The thing is, indeed, I would like to agree with your statement that this current government or administration has indeed hampered. In fact, they've tweaked, should I say, intentionally truncated the living or the lives of Nigerians.
Yes.
Now, I was having a dialogue with one staunch supporter of this administration, and then the person said, "Oh, hallelujah to the president that because of the current hike in fuel prices, that the administration has rolled out about 100 CNG conversion kits." And I asked him, "Do you know the price of conversion? How many persons can even afford that?" So the current administration has indeed, in fact, we've gone beyond low. We've gone beyond low. They've done and then dealt with us, and it's really a precarious situation.
Yes, it's during this administration, Joshua, still that we've seen series of protests from hunger and then bad governance, and even down to electoral reforms. Looking at the electoral reforms now, democratically, some analysts have said that it's good on paper. Do you think implementing that is going to help Nigeria have a credible election?
Now, as far as the good Nigerian citizen is concerned, there've been no updated electoral reforms. What we asked was clear. It was written on black and white. We want a mandatory, keyword mandatory, electronic transmission of results. Now, they will tell you that they've acceded or assented to the wishes of the Nigerian masses by making a provision for the electronic transmission of results. But there's a clause that says that perhaps if there is no, or if there are no, internet services, then the manual whatsoever can be implemented. Now, the error now is that that manual, we don't want it. The idea is if there is no, internet services, then that's election in that hold should be cancelled. It's as simple as that. You don't come and then boast you have 32 governors and this and that. Then give us free and fair elections. If the people love you, will come back. So there is no reform, and we are still fighting for that reforms.
You mentioned CNG earlier, and from the budget projection for crude, this for the 2026 budget says crude are projected to a cap of $64 to a barrel. In Nigeria now, crude per barrel is sold at $120 per barrel, and the seedings are said to go into more creation of CNG. So far, you mentioned earlier about the cost of production. Do you think they should put up this money into creating more stations for CNG, or do you think the money should be reinvested back, or fuel subsidy should be introduced back into the system to help cushion the effect it's having on Nigerians?
Now, let me put it this way. If this government actually cares for the masses, as they assume or as they erroneously proclaim, since you've stopped subsidy, why don't you intellectually or intelligently take that subsidy, a little bit of it? If you want us to go into CNG conversion, subsidize CNG for us. To start with, I can tell you, when this whole thing started off, I contacted one of the CNG stations at along this what's it called?
Road?
No, it's not. This central business area. Yes, you have NNPC filling station at this side and then the other side as well. I asked them, one of the NNPC filling station, how much? They told me it's a whooping. I call it whooping because to some person to be whooping. 800,000 for conversion. That's unfair. Where would I get 800,000? The poor masses that are even out of job, where would they get it? So if the government actually wants to cushion this harsh effect on the Nigerian masses, subsidize it. Subsidize it, and they will feel your impact. It's as simple as that.
All right, Mr. Emmanuel, let's look at other aspects now. Earlier we were talking about the cost that it's going to have on Africa, and you mentioned that the Africa EU leaders should come together. Do you think that we are going to see any of those swift movements, and also what role do you think ECOWAS can play to help the 8 member countries, which Nigeria is part of, not feel the heat so much of this incident happening in the Western world?
No, incidentally, within the ECOWAS region, you could ask how many of the members are oil producing. Perhaps Cameroon has what they call observer status on there's oil in Cameroon. perhaps Equatorial Guinea, and a couple of, but ECOWAS need to, at regional level and at sub-regional level, because the point is that the more you try to build some sort of, you could say, an inclusive system that will trigger off or encourage intra-region, sub-regional trade. Perhaps that may be, Ghana is also producing. Ghana has got some oil fields. But the point is that if African Union is able to develop a broad framework for across Africa, because in the Southern Africa, most of the countries there do not produce. Don't have crude. Incidentally, places like South Africa, for their power, for their energy, for power, supply in South Africa, I think they've got about almost 28 to 30,000 metric tons of electricity, and they supply to across all the countries within the region, Malawi, Namibia, and what have you. And in those places, the shop, they cook their food with electricity. That's how efficient it is. So if South Africa can, for instance, share whatever lessons they have learned in terms of supporting the countries around. These are some of the good lessons that I expect Africa in terms of peer review mechanism to be able to share. But they need to meet quickly, because if they don't meet, the continent will get deeper into poverty. And I mean, crisis that is happening somewhere in the Middle East, far will now rest in Africa. It will be very, very unfortunate.
Okay, Joshua, as we're getting set to wrap up now, do you think that if this persists, do you think we'll see Nigerians back in the streets? Because we're already seeing that in petrol stations, that queues are beginning to build up because of what I call it panic buying right now, because of the whole incident. And again, we are getting into the rainy season, and we know what always happens. We'll hear bad road, there is no means for tankers to be able to drive all the way down and all. Do you think if this persists, this war continues, and then we don't see the government reacting swiftly to reducing or cushioning the effects of the cost of PMS and diesel, do you think we are going to see Nigerians back on the streets protesting?
Well, I envisage such to happen. In fact, there is currently a planned protest that should happen this coming Monday. And it's Occupy Government House across the nation. So, I don't know. Sometimes people say, I think this government or this current administration has a jinx on the Nigerian masses, because I don't know how long we can bear. Let's not even talk about the insecurity. You can't even travel by road anymore. It's that bad. Let me even tell you, a supporter of this current administration in Ondo State was recently kidnapped, and recently he posted on Twitter that this man at the helm of affairs of this nation has done so well, his reforms are working, and then this and this is happening. It was a few days he was kidnapped, and now his child, his daughter, that has been supporting this current administration, is now calling on the Twitter persons to contribute to a tune of 100 million to go and rescue the person that was kidnapped. We are long due for a peaceful protest until all these anomalies come to a standstill.
Okay, I want to say, I wish we have more time to continue this conversation, but time is no longer our friend. I want to say a very big thank you to Emmanuel Ozemena for taking our time to join us on today's edition of Emmanuel Ozemena, a policy consultant, and also we have Joshua Chukwu, who sells health insurance and also a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for joining us on Discuss today. Well, as history has repeatedly shown, the wars rarely remain confined to the battlefield. The consequences ripple through economic, markets, and household around the world. The US-Iran conflict serves as a reminder that in an interconnected global economy, geopolitical tension can quickly translate into economic instability for policymakers. The challenge now is not only to manage the political tension, but also to prevent a conflict that could reshape the global economy landscape. Thank you so much for joining us on Discuss today. I am Samuel Odi. I'll see you all as we discuss further. Bye for now. Okay, and we're done. Thank you so much.